annual Cannabis Awards Cannabis exhibit at the California State Fair. This is the second year. Today we're going to be having a panel called Craft Cannabis and a personal connection with the plant. My name is Lindsey Renner, and I'm the owner of Native Humboldt Farms. I have a small farm in Humboldt County, California. I've been cultivating for 15 years, sun-grown, using regenerative and indigenous farming practices. I also have a delivery in Oakland, California, native Oakland. And so I'm really excited to be here today to be moderating this panel with these two amazing cultivators, both of which have won awards this year and last as well. And, you know, as a retailer, it's really important to have these conversations. You know, it's important that consumers know about craft cannabis and kind of that it's an option out there and that they can purchase it and that, you know, it's just such high quality cannabis. But it's also important for retailers like myself to really make craft cannabis a focus. And, you know, also to help to educate consumers. So I'm going to let these guys introduce themselves. Marty?
My name is Marty Clein. Can you hear? My name is Marty Clein. I have a farm in Covelo, which is eastern Mendocino County. I actually live in a place called Willits, about an hour and a half away. So I'm two different places in Mendocino County. Moved to Mendo about 10 years ago, 11 years ago. I've been in California for 20 years and growing cannabis since I came here. My wife and I are cannabis refugees from Florida. We wanted to be a part of, you know, compassion. We saw what was going on in California. So we left Miami, Florida and landed in wine country for our first 10 years and had a unique introduction to farming practices. I came out of horticulture in general, but never really understood organics and biodynamics and regenerative farming. And early on in my cannabis career, I had the pleasure of working with the Benziger family and learning about biodynamics. And I instilled that into my farm today. And we make biochar on site. We make our own compost, teas, and etc. It's been an interesting journey.
Awesome, Marty. Well, it's a real pleasure to be here with Lindsey and you, Marty, because this is an amazing, to me, really historic event that's happening here with kind of hoping to normalize this plant more and more as we go through. My name is Marty Greyshock. I'm founder of Greyshock Farms. I began growing cannabis down in the mountains in Southern California 29 years ago now and had a great time for 14 years. I grew with one of my brothers up there in the mountains where I would go to Amsterdam and Canada pretty much every year to go try to find genetics, and I'd bring them all back here to California and grow them out. I was real into flavors and different effects and everything. So I began breeding cannabis, and it led to an amazing thing for me in my life. You know, I spent 14 years down there, but I did have law problems. I saw what was happening up here in Mendocino, so I came up to Mendocino. That was about 14, 15 years ago. I began growing kind of more in the open under the medical rec stuff. And then in 2015 up there in Mendocino, I thought, with the legalization that was happening, it was time to create a brand. And so I started to enter some of the events. And that first year at the Emerald Cup, we placed third place. And that really gave me a lot of inspiration. And now 8 years later, we've been in the winner's circle every year. My cannabis growing technique is really working with the land. I love animals and everything going around me with birds, lizards, even the tiniest things you really can't even see, trying to take care of those too in the ground. So I incorporate a lot of native plants into my grows. It's not just about cannabis, but real pleasure to be here and look forward to speaking.
Amazing. And so you both won awards this year. Marty, what did you win?
I won for the lemonade. Was a gold medal for Supreme Gelato. Wow.
And you, Mark?
We won the Ostamine categories. Last year we won 5 medals and 2 of the Golden Bears for CBDA and Ostamine as well. this year we were able to come back and win another Golden Bear with the Osamine category. So yeah, thank you.
Amazing. And I noticed that you said that you had won awards at the Emerald Cup, and the Emerald Cup has a competition where judges actually smoke the flower and then they judge it that way. And then you've also won many awards here at the Cannabis Awards. I think that that's neat. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity, because, the Emerald Cup event, a lot of people think that, well, you need to know somebody or this and that. A lot of times the same farms win over and over again, and it kind of gives it a bad rap. But, they truly are blind tasting that stuff. Now I do know most of those people, but at the beginning I did not. And it was really neat last year to see at the California Cannabis Awards here, being a science-based thing, how many of these same strains that are placing really well here also are the ones that are winning or placing well at the Emerald Cup. And it just gave a lot of credibility to those judges and how serious they kind of take it, because they searched out the same flowers as the science-based stuff did.
Yeah, that's amazing. So let's talk a little bit about craft cannabis. What is craft cannabis?
Oh, wow, it's such a deep question, because like in the craft beer industry, they still argue about what is craft, how many cases is craft. So I think this is a great conversation to have. Personally, I believe anything under a quarter acre can be considered craft at a style of grow, but depending on how you scale and with the right people and the right equipment and the post-harvest buildings you need, if you can scale with the right tools, then I think craft could be an acre or more. But for me specifically, I know what it takes to grow a quarter acre, and I do it myself, and it's a tremendous undertaking. I, for one, don't want to scale, but I want to be a part of an industry where more people can have access to high-grade sun-grown. So craft for me is the backyard, easy to maintain with one or two people. That feels craft to me. But I think this is a discussion we're going to have for many years about, what is craft cannabis. But to me, being able to have post-harvest production down to be able to preserve the chlorophyll, the terpenes and flavonoids and the flavors is most important. So I don't care how much you're growing, if you could preserve it properly after harvest. But I think we should continue to talk about what size is craft cannabis, how much cannabis is craft, because I think we would have a lot of people say a lot of different amounts and sizes. So it's going to be fun to talk about it. What do you think, Marty?
Yeah, Marty, I think that, like you said, it's evolving as time goes on. But a lot of us I consider craft cannabis like that's an art. It's to the people that have been in a certain location, especially up there in the Emerald Triangle. There's such beautiful mountain spots and valley spots, and they all kind of have their own microclimates and everything, and there's certain strains that work well in some places but not in other places. So somebody that really has mastered the craft of it, somebody that's done it for a long time, usually in a certain location, and been able to really figure out what strains it is that perform best for them and work best for them. And there's just all these nuances with working in these little environments. And to be a craft farmer, I think you really need to have spent a lot of time in building that relationship with your land and the plants and everything. Craft cannabis, it's a real art form to me.
It is. It really is an art form. I like that description of it.
If I could add to craft, I guess what I'm thinking about craft is also, the time involved. Because 100 acres of greenhouse, it doesn't feel like it could be craft. But if you're, able to kind of walk through your garden every day, that feels craft to me.
Yeah, I think it's the time, and I think it's the love and the passion, right? We were just talking about this earlier. We really are, as craft cannabis farmers, we're in it for the plant. That's why we're here. We're not making a lot of money, and we are loyal to the plant, and we want to help to push its mission, and we're advocates, and so it's that love that you put into it. And I do think that craft it's quality. Right, so whatever's going into the craft cannabis description, what's coming out is is quality, higher or more broad cannabinoid contents, more broad terpene profiles, and things like that. So I think craft cannabis is definitely quality. And then talking about that, I'm Native American, so in my culture we believe that many things have spirit. So I feel like I've really connected with the cannabis plant itself, and it's connected me with the land and nature and the earth in general. And it's I call it spiritual ecology. What is your guys' connection with the plant? How do you think that affects the cultivated product at the end?
Yeah, so cannabis for me is medicine, first and foremost. That's why I came to California. My wife uses it every day in many forms, not just the flower, but tinctures and balms and rubs. And so cannabis is medicine just feels like that connection. We consume it ourselves. And that's our approach to the market. We want other people to enjoy our flower as well. And if we like it, we feel like others are going to like it too. One more thing about craft, like I'm trying to visualize an artist who's refining their craft. So rather than, hey, I won an award in 2015, I'm the bomb. You didn't do that. You continue to tighten up your SOPs and learn more about your property and about that closed loop system. Just still on the idea of craft is, like I tell you, I want to get to your farm and learn more about where I'm at as a farmer too. 20 years of growing cannabis. You could learn from someone growing 15 years as well as 29 years. So that's craft as well, is that refining every year of your style, being willing to use another amendment or do a different type of pruning, etc.
Yes, and to Lindsey's point there, to me, cannabis and spirituality go very well together. Spending 14 years in the mountains growing all that time, I was often by myself and I was with my brother. And those opportunities during the day to be out there in nature and to smoke, it just really brings everything to life around you. The leaves start sparkling, you can hear the birds starting to chirp, and just sitting there on a rock and watching a little hummingbird come down and hit up the little sage plant next to you, it brings spirituality into the mix. And cannabis, for me, over the years, I would call myself a much more spiritual person now than I was when I was younger, before I'd started to really indulge in cannabis. Cannabis brings a connection to not only nature and things around you like that, but it also connects you with people. Like, I have such a more appreciation now for people. Just all of us go through so much stuff in life in the world these days. To be able to really deeply connect is such a special feeling, and that's what cannabis has really been able to bring into my life. And so for me, I'm so thankful for cannabis and that aspect of bringing spirituality into things.
Yeah, it really does kind of bring us all together, and it has formed this community, which is
culture,
really
cannabis culture.
Cannabis culture, yeah, cannabis culture, absolutely. We really all have been through so much over the years. How long have you been cultivating?
20 years.
And then, how about you?
29 years.
29 years, you just said that. And me 15. So, we've all been through so many things. And to get to this point and be sitting here on this stage right now at the California State Fair, knowing that cannabis for the second year in a row has been judged along, other agricultural crops in California, is huge. What does that mean to you, craft cannabis in general?
Yeah, just, cannabis farmers are just farmers. I said this last year in an interview, and, having some recognition with or without the award, because I didn't win one last year, but I was still gung-ho about the event. And I'm a little more gung-ho because I got a goal, but nevertheless, thank you. But that's, it's just, I just can't believe that we're here really talking about this and being able to communicate, with consumers about, what we do, and I don't put down indoor or put down greenhouse or light depth or anything. I think they all have their place at the craft level,
It's such a special thing to be able to share California sun-grown cannabis flower with people, because California is such a unique piece of land You know, everywhere from the redwoods up by Lindsey's area there, the Honeydew Petrolia area has 119 inches of rain a year, and then you know you go to the southwest deserts, places like Death Valley, and you have literally 0 inches of rain a year. So we have this super diverse state and microclimates all over the place. And California produces, especially these western sloped mountains and valleys, because of the proximity to the Pacific Ocean and that little bit of moisture that brings into place. It's not too much moisture, it's just that perfect environment. It's like the wine and everything. You know, California produces some of the best in the world. And there's not many places besides California, maybe up in Oregon obviously, but besides those 2 places, you don't really have the ability to produce this really special sun-grown flower in these microclimates. So that's what California is able to really show off, and to be able to be a part of the fair here with the wine, cheese, and beer. You know, these are also some of the best in the world. So it feels like we're showing off, we're able to show off now, especially with the support of the awards and really showing what's going on, to show off this special product out there. You know, everybody grows these days, or a lot of people, like I don't put it down either when it comes to the indoor stuff. I've been growing that way myself a long time, but it's really this sun-grown California product that, to me, I feel a special connection with. You know, just even the environmental footprint. It costs $400 per pound of electricity just to produce a pound of indoor flower. It's got a big environmental footprint to it. And here we are able to just utilize the land and the sun for basically free and get, in my opinion, just as nice of a flower, if not a better expression of the flower. So I'm just really thankful we're now able to actually show this stuff off alongside the wine and the cheese and the olive oil, the beer and everything. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing, and it definitely feels like a huge win for us. You know, I think we're all cannabis advocates. We've been advocating for years, and last year when I realized that, you know, this was happening, it was just, you know, I mean, it really felt like, wow, okay, all of the hard work we've been putting in and advocating for this plan is finally starting to pay off. We have a seat at the table, finally, you know, that's a big deal. So, when talking to consumers, why is it important to know your farmer and to know where your cannabis comes from?
Thank you. One of the things I try to work with for delivery services and dispensaries is education, because I'm not necessarily selling the cannabis anymore to consumers. It's the bud tenders at the dispensaries and the people involved on the phone at the delivery service. So you really have to educate them first and foremost. But at an event like this or a farmer's market someplace, you know, education is the key. You know, being able to communicate to them what goes into, you know, producing a flower like this, with all of the things that we deal with in sun-grown, which is the weather. You know, at the peak of summer in Covelo in the southeast corridor, it could be 120 3 or 4 days in a row and 60 degrees at night. You know, and that, to me, that really allows some of those unique terpene profiles and cannabinoid expressions that you won't get indoors or, you know, in greenhouses.
Yeah, knowing your farmer, I think, just brings you closer to the plant. You know, it's just, that's the person whose hands that grew that flower, and once you make that connection with them, you're closely connected to the flower at that point. So it's a really cool, rather than just buying a flower that comes from a commercially produced thing that doesn't have anybody's signature actually put on it, to me feels a lot different. You know, knowing your farmer, where they're at, the environment that they're in and everything is really cool, because, like, to me, when I smoke cannabis, I love growing cannabis in beautiful locations and seeing the plant in beautiful locations, because when I'm smoking it, it brings you back to that moment of all those pretty trees around, that beautiful air that's coming through all the redwoods and everything. It just makes it more special than thinking of a flower growing like in a corner of a basement or something. Like, it's like the wine, like California wine. I really, vision Napa Valley. It's just an amazing location when you see how beautiful it is in the fall, especially with all the oaks and the trees changing the color on the leaves. When I drink wine, I think of that. And it's a cool thing to think about as you consume it.
Absolutely. And I think that, we've been doing so much education, trying to get that education to consumers and retailers over the last 5 years, 6 years. I do think that consumers are starting to be more conscious when making their purchases, kind of purchasing with a purpose, which is good for us. I think that conversations like this, panels like this are so important, and I think that finally it's starting to trickle out, and we're people are starting to know that we're here and that craft is an option. So that's great.
I always tell consumers to ask for it by name, sun grown. They'll know, and the buyers have to hear from consumers, because I go into a lot of dispensaries and I don't hear back from the buyers. I know you guys are out there a lot selling the brand, and some buyers just don't respond to it. Oh, you're sun grown? Instead of wanting to look and find out what you're doing specifically, and it helps. I always wanted to circle back to the award. It helps with the award now to be able to speak to a buyer I don't know and say, by the way, besides all this media and who I am and what the flower looks like, here's what it tested like, and it was able to, win an award. And so I'm hoping that it's a launching board for some additional branding and marketing here at the fair.
Right now we can only sell in California, within California. And the Origins Council has been working with California. They just released a memo to the Attorney General's office, kind of outlining their reasons why they think California should be able to do interstate commerce. How do you think that will? Do you think that's beneficial? How do you think that will affect craft cannabis, getting it out of the state of California?
I was speaking to some of the DCC members, and I explained to them that if things don't change, they're going to have another quarter where they lose tax revenue. And if they want tax revenue increase, they'll empower small businesses or medium-sized businesses, with tax breaks and support, because that's where the money's going to come from. If we could sell direct to consumer and take care of our own taxes, we could send the state some, and we could bring some money back to Mendocino County. Because right now, all of my distributors, that tax money is in Oakland or in Sacramento. So, we have a long way to go, but I think at least being able to talk about it is the most important thing. It's like, I go to my farmer's market every week and I look for the guy that grows the artichokes because his are the best. I'm hoping that we could get there with cannabis where they could come be like, oh, there's Mark and Marty. We got to get the best, So we got a long way to go, but this is a big step forward for us to realize that retail value one day where we could meet somebody at an event like this. You could exchange numbers, and now they're in your Rolodex for the next 20 years, and business is good. It's been hard having to work with the middle. I'll leave it at that.
Cannabis has been being exported from California for a long time now to the whole rest of the world, really. And to see us now in this moment where everything that we produce, because it goes into the metric DCC system, it's stuck right here in California for the most part. It's like taking Saudi Arabia and telling them they can't export their oil or something. It would create this massive glut and a falling of prices, which is exactly what's happened here. But the world wants this product. You can see it happening anyways. Like, there's lots of it in New York right now, packaged with the California labels. I saw a story 2 days ago about it being in New Mexico, and that agency, that regulatory agency, actually shut that dispensary down because it had California labeled product in it. But the fact is, if everybody wants it, it's going to flow anyways. It's been flowing for a long time. So to see it done in a regulatory fashion would be really cool, because one of the things I think about outdoor cannabis is it's got a really bad rap through the years, and there's reasons for that. I've seen a lot of the farms around us and how they grow and how they kind of treat the product. There's no love put in it. They're just throwing it around, and the stuff they spray on it and everything, it couldn't even pass into the system these days. And that stuff's getting exported all over the place, and people are smoking really compromised cannabis, something that's supposed to be really healing isn't healing because it's full of a bunch of junk. And so to be able to get to the point, we're fighting for it right now, but it's going to be so cool to be able to start to export this good, clean product to everybody that would like it, because the world to me right now, if there's one thing it needs more of, it's good cannabis.
Bob Marley said, the more men smoke herb, the more Babylon fall. I don't want Babylon to fall, but I do want people to understand what we're doing, and we're just farmers, and we want to make a living. I need to get new tires on my truck. I need brakes on my vehicle, and it's been very difficult putting something like that off. Where 5 or 7 years ago, you needed it, you just got it. And it's been hard navigating the last couple of years as the prices crumbled, and the middle is vanishing right now. A lot of the big distros are hurting as well. I think giving the small farmer.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you very much for the opportunity to hear the cannabis space from your perspective. From the perspective of the very small cultivator and the medium cultivator, would the panel support a new license, an actual, real microbusiness? We all know that the microbusiness as we have now is in no way micro or small. And in order to save what's left of heritage cannabis in the county, what's your take on that? The statute does allow for a new license, an actual cottage microbusiness. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. I enjoy working with you. I appreciate all the support. Being able to sell direct to consumer in a simple way without having to have a commercial building with an ADA parking spot in the mountains of Mendocino somewhere is the next step. But I think, anybody that has a 10,000 square foot or less should be immediately given a distribution license to be able to do it themselves. Simply, not like, oh, here's another $5,000 bill you have, but, rolled up into that. And we could argue that it could be an acre, either way is fine, but we need to talk about it immediately, or California is gonna, as they're doing their 8th quarter in a row, they're gonna find out that they lost money in the second quarter again of this year, and I predict the same for the third and fourth quarter until they make changes.
My own personal feeling when it comes to these licensing, a little bit of the politics and stuff involved, I'm just trying to hang in there as hard as I can with what I can do. So much of it is out of your hands. I'd sure love to have it been made easier, but the natural progression of this has made it to be where it is, where it's at right now, and it's a heck of a struggle and fight for us. I feel like it's going to continue to be like that for some time right now. I'm just going to do everything I can to hang in there and hope that the regulators and stuff are on the same team of us all and can help streamline and fix this process before all of us are lost and not around anymore, to be able to show this legacy cannabis and stuff off. But I sure hope that there's some help out there for us.
Yeah, and unfortunately, many craft farmers have went out of business in recent years. But we're just still here trying to make it. And I think right now what's really important is, that community that we were talking about, that cannabis helped to build, all of us together. We really need to lean on each other, and I have a micro business and, I definitely want to support all of the other craft cannabis farmers who have given so much and sacrificed so much over the last 6 years. It's hard, but I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful, and we are still here. So, is there anything else that, any call to action, anything else that you would like a consumer to know, just anything that we didn't cover?
It's a good question. We did cover a lot. I just still think consumers need to speak to their dispensaries and, ask. That doesn't mean they're going to order my sun grown, but they'll order, Mark's or someone else, or, Higher Heights or, Sonoma Hill Farms. So just talk about it as a category, because when you look at it, it's a sliver of a sliver. Because when you're in Europe and Amsterdam, it's all indoor or greenhouse. So what we do is so unique and different. Actually, the pricing scale should be upside down, in my opinion, just based on true supply and demand. We're not a 3,000 light, down in LA that's putting out 200-300 pounds every 4 or 5 days. What we do is different, and I just think this is the step forward to creating that market, because I do believe in the next 5 to 10 years we will see everything, from my lips to God's ears, but we will see everything turn upside down, where craft sun-grown cannabis is going to be hard to find from someone like myself or someone like Mark, Higher Heights, Sonoma Hill Farms. We don't have a lot of it. And if you open the state walls and you open the international walls in Amsterdam, anytime I would go and bring a couple ounces, it was always the flyest, flower in the room, and the high is just, if I could segue a different, one of the reasons I like sun-grown and I like to share other people's sun-grown is, in some cases, the high can be almost lightly psychedelic because of the terpene profile that's produced from a flower growing, at 60 degrees and 120 degrees and in the sun and the moon and the stars. It's the right flower. Like some of your guava, it's psychedelic, and that's just the way it's absorbing into your brain. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you guys for what you do. Yeah, the cannabis plant's an amazing plant. Its ability to adapt. One of the things we really enjoy doing is growing the same genetics, like something like a purple candy cane over in Mendocino in a couple different locations, as well as over in like Grass Valley, and just see how the flower turns out different from the different areas. It's really interesting because Mendocino, like on testing results and stuff, it's been consistent over the years now to see this. Higher cannabinoid levels happen in Mendocino for us generally, with a lot of times slightly different lower terps. Over in the Grass Valley area, it's a little bit lower cannabinoid numbers and higher terps. And it's just fun to see the different ways the flavor turns out and the different ways that the same flower can affect you a little bit different in the different locations. Which obviously indoor, I don't mean to bag on indoor, but indoor, grown in a warehouse in San Francisco, a warehouse in LA, and a warehouse in Florida, it doesn't bring that kind of experience to where you can see how the different terroirs, the different locations really affect the flower in effects and taste.
A AAA flower in Miami grown indoor is a AAA flower in Amsterdam grown indoor. The right cultivar, the same cultivar, grown at that scale. Where sun-grown, it's different. Literally down the street in the valley floor, 1,400 foot, up in the mountains at 2,500 foot, it's different. And that's what I like about sun-grown. Each year is going to be different. Sometimes we have fires. Sometimes, do you have a question?
Oh, yeah, I'm ready. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. What's up?
Oh, I was just going to fire off and say I'd love to hear each of you guys talk about whatever strain it was that you got some awards for here, and what about that strain that you think stands out? What about, did you breed it? Where did it come from? Give a little background on some of the strains that you guys got awards for.
Thank you. So the Supreme Gelato, actually in the Humble Root booth, they're actually selling some of the Supreme Gelato, and it's going to be sold out pretty quick from what they were saying. But over there, I actually have the strain report, and it's just really rich in the limonene and pinene, and that's a 20-year journey. I started with Supreme, and I'm actually looking at skunk number 1. The Supreme was a Mark Emery seed from Vancouver. I got it out of Cannabis Culture magazine, and it was the skunk 1 crossed with the Northern Lights number 4, and that was the original genetic that I started with. 4 years later, I was in LA at a friend's warehouse. He stores band equipment, and that's when I met Be Real from Cypress Hill, and I got a cultivar called the Church, which was a Bubba Kush crossed with the original OG before it was crossed with the Master Kush, so it had a little more sativa vibe to it, but my roots were always indica, pain reduction, but I really like those hybrids now in the middle that give you a little bit of that, a little bit of buzzy, but also pain reduction, so I could get busy for 2 or 3 hours in the garden and just work. And then 3 years ago, I was at an Emerald Cup event. It was the bank in Petaluma. Compound Genetics was having an event there, and I got a seed from Chris, their genetics guy, which was the Jet Fuel Gelato. So that over 20 years, it wasn't every year crossing, but that journey led to the Supreme Gelato. Cool. So I'm super excited about it, and it's a little more piney and limonene that I like, but the market loves it and all the bud tenders like it, because when you open the jar, it looks good and You know, it has those really rich terpenes. What'd you win for? Or how many did you win?
Through the years, we've been fortunate to create a lot of really unique and different kind of strains, and that's what I would consider my true specialty, like in my life, is having done it for almost 30 years now, you know, having collected all the genetics I could from here in California, from different people, from Amsterdam, from Canada, then coming here to California and growing them out. My goal is always try to create something unique and different, because what's already in the marketplace is already in the marketplace. It's that you don't need to create the same thing. I can remember in the 2017 Emerald Cup when they held the first ever SC Labs Awards there, and it was kind of funny. I remember thinking, well, we won't be winning these awards because that's not what I'm really breeding for and stuff, but it turns out we did. We won the highest terpene flower as well as the most interesting terpene cannabinoid flower. And they had this cool picture of the galaxy up on the screen, and it showed how everything was kind of clustered together, kind of tightly together, and they were pointing out how much of the stuff was the same stuff. And then some of our stuff, some of our strains were way outliers, which made me feel really good about it, because that is what I was trying to do, is create unique, special stuff. Like in terms of this, it was our Passion Orange Guava this year that won the Golden Bear. And that's an osamine dominant cultivar. And osamine's an extremely rare terpene to find in cannabis, especially at the higher levels. And to now be able to be in a position where it's testing higher than 1% osamine is really a special thing. So it's something that's just, and I guess SC Labs kind of gives us a lot of credit for it as to having brought osamine really to the marketplace.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, and I think it's really important to notice that they both won for terpenes, right? And so why that's important is, you know, we hear a lot about people looking for high THC content, but the terpenes are so important. So when you buy from Marty or Mark, you can tell, 20 years of breeding genetics to get these really interesting terpene profiles. That's what creates the experience of the full high. So it's a more rich, full-bodied, full-spectrum high when you have these broad cannabinoid and terpene profiles. And that's what craft cannabis is. And that's why you need to know your farmer, and just a quick call to action if you're a consumer, we do need help. We need you to, come listen to panels like this, learn about these farmers, know what craft cannabis is, and help us, because we want to still be here 10 years from now on the stage, talking about craft cannabis, and we want you to have the best cannabis experience possible. So we need a little bit of help, and yeah.
So one of the two or three changes in Prop 64 will make your life better.
I think the one thing is direct to consumer, for real. Because we've had it at some of the farmers markets, but we have to send somebody over to a booth to go deal with a distro. We need to look someone in the eye and not have to write a sheet of paper and say, go pick it up over there. We need to exchange money and be in touch with that consumer. I mean, I buy beef from the same guy for 15 years. I met at a farmer's market. He lives in Valley Ford. I still go to his farm once a year. That's the kind of relationship I want. I've been to your farm. I want people to come to my farm, and that's the goal, is to have that connection with the consumer. If one thing could change, it would be that. We can't go backward and say, the 1 acre cap didn't work and we gotta, charge everybody that grew more than 1 acre. That really peels back a lot of onions. I think we should do it, but that's another story. To move forward, we gotta kind of let that go and move on and say, okay, farmers, it's your turn to run the ball.
Well, thank you, Marty, and thank you, Mark, and congratulations on your awards this year. And thank you, everyone, for coming and listening and learning about craft cannabis and these wonderful farmers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.